Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, Bava Metzia daf Sadi Dalid. We are going to begin on Sadi Dalid Amud Aleph by the new Mishnah on the top. Says the Masnis. The Mishnah says that Masne Shomer Chinam liyois pater mishvua. Now, normally a Shomer Chinam, in the case of, let's say, Gneva of Aveda, they can make a shvua and to say that it was lost or stolen, then he's going to be pater, he's not going to pay. Now, he is chayav to make a shvua, but what if he made a stipulation? He said, I'll be a shemer chinam for you, but if it gets lost or stolen, I'm not going to make a shvua at all, I'm just going to be pater completely. So you can actually do that. V'shayil, and when it comes to a borrower who is usually chayav on everything, even on einus, well, you use pater l'shalim. He can also make a stipulation that I'm not going to have to pay under these circumstances. Noisis sacher v'hasaycher, a person who's paid to watch, or a renter, liyos patur mishvua mishalim. You can make the stipulation that sometimes, for example, by an einus, you can make a shvua and be pater, or when it comes to the chiyuv of paying, for example, by Gneva Veda, Shemer Sachar is mechuyev to pay, and according to this Man Yomer, Seicher also. So therefore, he can say, you know what, I don't have to pay in these situations, which seems to contradict the next line of the Mishnah, which we're going to ask. That kol mastal mashakos b'tar tanai batal. If you go against a condition that was stipulated in the Torah, you cannot go against it. You can't say, I want to do X, Y, Z on condition that I don't have to keep Shabbos. It's like, you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to make that type of a condition. It's something which is against what the Torah says. So again, this is going to end up being a kasha that l'chayra, all the dinim of the Daled Sharmim of making a shvur, having to pay, these are all things that are found in the Torah itself. So it's hard to understand why this would work. But we'll get to that in the Gemara. Also, it has to be, as Rashi says, shehikdim maisa she'olav lasos l'tanai shu shoyim in hari maisa zeh shelcha. This actually will be upon you. Im sasa davar point, if I do such a thing. Do damu tanai gad of Ruvain. So when it came to Gad and Ruvain, there was a tanai. It was a tanai kafel also is required. As the Gemara Kedushin discusses, that they said if you go to such a place and fight against our enemies, then you'll be able to receive from the Transjordan. But if you don't, then you won't. So what do we see? We see that that's a case with a Tanai where you're supposed to do an action. First you say there's a condition, on condition that you do such a thing. And therefore it has to be in that same way. You cannot be mocked in the Maisa that you have to do before the condition. However, if let's say it's something when it is possible you can complete at the end, it is possible to fulfill, and you made this condition in the beginning, then it is Tanai's Kayim, which seems to imply that it has to be something that's possible. However, it's impossible to do, so then that doesn't mean anything. To say, on condition that I go to the sky, so it's not something which is feasible. And therefore, for that reason, that condition it means nothing. So it's as though you didn't even make a condition against the thing. So it's correct the Gemara. How does it work when it comes to being a shomer to be able to make these different conditions, like the race of the Mishnah? This is question number 9. Maishna shemechinam the masli yois patim mishvua me ha makadesh amna she'in l'chol alai sher ksus va'ina dabli masa makashim b'tayra. So hamani Rabbi Yehuda. So this, our Mishnah is like the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda. That what? When it comes to monetary issues, even though it's in the Torah, but since it's a money matter, so that we could say that you could make such a condition. It's only when it comes to dinim of a surah, of an isser, that you cannot be masna. How do we see this? The Sanya, the famous Gemara that we can see in shot, you can see on the side, and many times this is brought down. A beautiful man says a beautiful statement, I want you to marry me. But then he makes a condition. I'm not going to give you anything. I'm not going to give you clothes. I'm not going to give you food. And I'm not going to have relations with you. So it is a good kedushin. Rameir says it's a good kedushin because when you say Harat Mikadeshesli, that's it, and then everything you said afterwards means nothing because it's against what the Torah requires. You as a husband have a requirement to give these things to your wife. He actually holds no. When it comes to davar shebamamon, like sharing ksus, that actually works, and therefore that's one answer of our Mishnah. Umi matzas mukmas like Rabbi Yehuda. How can we establish like Rabbi Yehuda? Ema seifa it says kol masa mashkas b'tayra tanai batal. Atad Rameir. So he said that is in accordance to the shita of Rameir. So holokasha only Rabbi Yehuda. The seifa do ever shenu shemamin. However, when it says over here chol davar chol tanai, which any masa mashkas b'tayra is batal, is something which is not money related. Okay. Ema seifa. Anytime you have a tanai in which the action is first, it's bottle. Who holds like that? Rameir. Rameir is the one who makes the statement. The Sanya. He said the name Rameir that tanai koidim lamaisa harzet tanai. If the conditions before the action works. However, Maitza Kadam Tanai, Inner Tanai. So it's Rameir that says this. You can't establish a Mishnah like Rabbi Yehuda. Elakula, again, maybe you could say that the Tana holds like him on one, arguing with one. Sometimes we see answers like that. Over here we don't say that that's a teretz. Elakul Rameir. Rather, our Mishnah Taka has to be like the Shita Rameir. The problem is, if it's a Rameir says when it comes to Kedushin that you cannot do such a thing. It's Tanai's bottle. So how come over here by Hashem it works? Because originally you were not Meshabed yourself. What does that mean? So, says Rashi, this is not considered to be Al Mashachas Matar. Why? I do not wait. I'm not a shomer now. So I'm making this statement, I'm making the stipulation before I'm even a shomer. And I say, I am not going to be your shomer, elwa bekach, only with these parameters. And we know that a shomer is not a shomer, until he actually does mashiach on the animal. When he did mashiach, kvar pirish almanash ein lo of shvua. It's only based on that stipulation that was already said. V'lo shiva nafshe Larry Batar Shaimrim Elo Lamixus. Therefore, he only consented to become like a partial shomer. Avol Hamakadish as Isha Mechi Armula Har Mikadashly. Once you say that statement, is Scottish law, says Rashi, you're married. Mechi Armula Almanash Shein Loichalai Masamashka Batayra. Anything you say afterwards means nothing. The Ain Ishos Lachatzayin. You can't be half married. Mechi Tafis Kedushin Legami Tafis. So when the Kedushin is typhus, it's complete. But Havi Masa Mashkabat, and that's the difference. Okay. So that's how we answer question 9. Okay. So Tana. Umasna, and you make this condition, Shemer Sacher Liyais Keshoyel. That a Shemer Sacher can say, I will be like a Shoyel. Now, a Shemer Sacher is potter from Ointzen. However, a shoyel is chayv. So you can. Our mission talks about how you could make yourself less liable, but you can also make a condition to be more liable. So b'mai, b'dvar. So how are you doing this? What with words? How could you obligate yourself higher level with just mere words? So Amar Shmuel, you're right. It's b'shekanim yadai. He had to have done some type of kinyan. Even without a kinyan, how does words work? Because ma'ahi no, the pleasure, the kanafikli kala, the inish mehimnahu, gomer mishabanashe. The reality is, people are going to know that this is a really great guy, that he accepts upon himself even higher levels of responsibility, and therefore, because he's viewed now as a trustworthy person, he'll be mishabanashe in that way. The whole shiashul kaimoi. So as long as it's something that's possible to do, that's a good condition. Amarav Tavol Amarav Zudi Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema. They say, even if it's impossible to fulfill, and you made a condition originally, Tanai Kaim. The Sanya. Because we learn like this. A prince says, I'm going to give you your divorce document. Almanash shitalu rakia. On condition, go all the way to the heavens. Or almanash shitirdi latahayim, to go all the way to the depths. Almanash shitivli kana shel me almanas, swell a reed of 100 almas. Almanash shit tavri as hayam hagadol. That you should be able to basically go over the Mediterranean Sea by foot. All these things are impossible. This gaima tanai, harizeh get. If you're mekayim the tanai, then it's good. Unis gaima hatanai eno get. Now, Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema omer kizeh get. It's still considered a get. Now, what does that mean? It must mean that even if it's something which is impossible to be mekayim, Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema says then that the Tanai is bottle. Klal Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema. Kol sheyev shelo l'kayim b'seifa. Anything which is impossible to fill the hisno l'amid chilas. You made the condition enu ella kemafliga the kosher. It's just like you're just trying, as Rashi says, laknita ba'almi. You're just trying to bother her. You're causing anguish and pain by saying these ridiculous statements, but it doesn't mean anything. It's still a get. Rav Nachman Amar Rab halacha k'Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema. Halacha is talk like him. Amar Nachman Yitzchak Masnis Namedeka. We can prove this from a mission. If Tani Kol She'eshel Kaima B'Seifo Visnal Medchilasu Tanai Kaim. It's only because it's possible. Mashma Ha'Yeshel Kaimo Tanai Batal Shmai Mina. If it's impossible, then the condition is batal. So therefore, it's clear that the halacha is like the shita of Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema. Hanulacha Seichas Apoalim. We now continue with the 8th parak, Hashayel Sapara. So you borrow a cow, V'shayel ba'aleha ima, and also in the same time, you're also going to ask the owner to work with you. Oh, sachar b'le ima, or you actually will pay the owner, and he is with you during the time with this animal of his. Shal habalim, you borrow from the owner. So sachar balehi imam v'shol balim o sacharin biachach shayel as a para umes a potter, and or let's say that you rented it and afterwards you borrowed the cow and then it died, so you're potter. Why? Shnemer im balav imo yishalim. That the din is that if the owner of the ox or cow here is with you at that time, apparently when it dies, then you're going to be potter if or it gets damaged. So that's l'chayr what it's referring to. We'll see that's not exactly correct as we continue to set it off in Mays, because we contrast it. Let's say first you borrow the cow, but then only later on you ask the owner to work and you borrow the owner's work for him to work with you. What do you mean? He was with you when the animal died. So Rashi says like this. Even though at the time of the oinus the person was there, the owner was there, it's not considered to be like borrowing it with the owner there. It has to be that at the time that you borrowed this animal, this owner already was working for you. So it has to be that it happened at the same time, but not that you first borrowed the animal and then later on he started working for you, and then afterwards an oinus happens. That's not considered to be Baal Imoy. Says the Gemara. It says that afterwards you borrowed the cow, the Reisha, the Katani Ima. Tamashman the Reisha with him. Ima Mamish at the same time. Ima Mamish Mimishkachasla. How do we find that? Understand, how is it possible it's happening simultaneously? That's what we're saying. It must be the Reish is talking about it, that they were at the same time or before, let's say even before. So how's that even physically possible? So they're different kinyanim. So Iboy say let's say the para is in the chatzar of the borrower. So therefore there's no requirement to have to do mashicha. And therefore because of that it's shaykh. Therefore, that they both could have happened simultaneously. You say ad gufach lo tishail ad shas mashichas parasach. I'm not going to borrow your body, so to speak, the owner to the owner to work with me until I do Mashicha. So therefore, you're basically making a stipulation that it should only be this kinyan, if you will, of working for me at the time of the Mashicha of the par. And therefore, that's how it's possible that they can both happen simultaneously. Says question 10. So as we said, you're going to kama par b'chatzero, the shoyel, the cow's already there, therefore you don't need to do Mashicha. Okay, weiter. Tanan Hasan. So now we're going to go through the dinim of the Arba Shemrim, which we already saw a little bit in yesterday's daf, and of course a lot in Perek HaMafgid. Arba Shemrim, hey. One is a shemer chinam, shemer who does work for, watches the animal without pay, or the object. Vashoyel, a borrower, a noisei sachar, and vasoicher. So a shemer chinam nishmal al koil. As we saw before in the Mishnah, that a shemer chinam, he can make a shvua and he's potter. And that's specifically talking about geneva v'aveda, that when it comes to if an item is lost or stolen, he can make a shvua and then he doesn't have to pay. However, shoyel is the opposite, a borrower who gets hano without having to pay. So the din is that he has to always pay. He can't make a shvua to get out of it. He's going to be chayiv geneva v'aveda. He's also going to be chayiv anoyas. And certainly on pshia. Nois is sachar v'hasoicher nishmoyin al shvura v'al shvuya v'al meisa mishalmenes aveda v'as hageneva. So this is assuming that we couple them together, that a renter is like a watchman who is being paid, so they can make a shvuah regarding if the animal broke its limb or is captured or it died, and therefore they would be potter, but they would be chayiv on geneva aveda. So we said a shemer sachar is chayiv on geneva aveda. Okay. So how do we know all of these dinim? So we're familiar with the dinim of Arba Shemrim. How do we know it? So it's over here. The Tanabana. Parsha Rishon Nemar b'Shemer Chinam. The first parsha. And let's look at Rashi first. Gimel Parshiyos and Smuchos. There's three Parshiyos which are juxtaposed. Ki yitin ish el re'ehu kesab okel mishmor. Uva pater as geneva. And that pasuk over there, it says you're pater from geneva aveda, which means it therefore must be talking about a case of shemer chinam. Dechsev v'gunam v'beseish shetayin shenignava, that you're claiming that it was stolen. And it says v'nikra balabayas elokim. So you go to court, and you make a shvua. So Shomer Chinam is potter from Geneva v'aveda with a shvua. So that's the first one. So therefore, the first pasuk is talking about a Shomer Chinam. Shnia is b'Shemer Sachar. The Shnia in which you'll be chayiv in Geneva v'aveda is a Shomer Sachar. Says Rashi, you're watching these animals. Uva chiyav al Geneva. Upater al einsin b'shvua. So a shvua will pater you from an einis, but you'll be chayav in geneva aveda. Shvua will not get you out of it. Dechsiv umeis o nishba shuas Hashem tieh v'im ganav yiganav yishalom. That if it was stolen, you're chayav to pay, which means a shvua will not help you. Why? Because we're talking about a shemer sachar. Okay, let's go back in the Gemara. Shlish is b'shoyel. And the third is talking about a borrower, where you're chayav for basically everything. It says Rashi, v'chi yishal. It says farish in the pasuk borrowing. V'chi abas einsin. You're chayav in for an einis. Kishein balav imoy upater b'bailim. However, the chiddush is that the kula by a shoyel is if the baal is with you, as we just saw in this Mishnah, then you're going to be put. That's the reason why this is brought down, because our Mishnah, our new parak, introduces us a little bit more to one of the dinim about Baal Imoy by the Shoyel. Now, Bishlam Shlishis B'Shoyel Mafurish. You can't disagree. The third one is definitely talking about a bar, because the pasuk says it explicitly. V'chi yishal ish me'im riyehu v'nishmer ameis balav ein imoy shal mishalim. So you always have to pay even by an oinus. The question is, how do we know the first and the second one is shemer chinam and shemer sachar respectively? So Elwa Rishayna b'Shemer Chinam Shnei b'Shemer Sachar Ibachana. Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe the first pasuk is talking about a Shemer Sachar, and a Shemer Sachar, I guess, is potter from Geneva Aveda with a Shvua, but a Shemer Chinam would be Chayiv. So Mastaber Shnia b'Shemer Sachar. it makes more sense that the second one, which is more strict, is talking about someone who's getting paid. So therefore, that's the reason. So it makes sense. The first one is shomer chinam, and therefore you're potter gnei ba'aveda. Adarabba pufakert v'shen v'shemer sacher. Maybe the first one is actually shemer sacher. Shechem misham tashumi kevel b'toyin tanis ganav. Only when it comes to the first pasuk does it tell us that there is a din that if you're toyin tanis ganav, that if you claim that something was stolen and you lie to that effect, that you're going to end up having to pay kefil. However, when it comes to a shem, the other pasuk, because you're chayiv gneva, you can't make a shvua. So there's obviously no case of toyin tanis ganav. So fil hachi, very important chiddush over here. Karna below shvua adifa mikfela b'shvua. Paying the principal without making a shvua, just right out of the gate, you're always obligated for gneva. That's worse than potentially having to pay kefel by toyin tanis ganav with a shvua. So therefore, the case of shemer sacher is more stringent, even though you'll never pay kefel because you're chayiv geneva aveda. Nonetheless, it's worse to have to pay even just the Karen because you can't even get out of it. You're stuck, as opposed to when it comes to the shemer chinam, where you may not have to pay anything if you make a shvua, unless you're toyin tanis ganav and you're caught and you've lied about it. Then you'd be chayiv kefel. Teda. How do we see this is true? Da shoyel kol hanashalo. So when it comes to a shoyel, there's no din of kefil either. And he's certainly the most strict because he gets all the hana. He doesn't pay for anything. So, and he's chayiv oinsin, but he never pays kefil. So the fact that we can find that potentially you can pay kefil is not going to be reason to say that it's more strict. Okay, question 11. Ma raya sheheba begamark al kach bekarna b'loy shvua difa mekveil b'shvua. Because by a shoyel kol hanashlo misham karen b'loy shvua, you don't make a shvua. B'lo kefil b'shvua. There's no din of him making a shvua. Okay, and let's look at TB 21. Maharaya again, same question. B'shoyel afabi shekol hana. I wrote rov hanash. I don't know why I wrote that. Shalo. Who chayiv rak karen v'lo kefil. Okay. All right, weiter. Vashoyel kol hana shalo. Assuming this is the reason why. Is it true that all the hana is his? V'ha bohim zayni. He has to feed the thing, right? The kaim of agam. Let's say it's in the swamp. So therefore, and I didn't do this Rashi, but okay. So it's possible that you could have the animal samuch agam. Okay. V'haboy netira, we have to watch the animal. Yeah, it's a benater masa. The city is watching all the animals anyway. That's the reason why I wrote that in the answer. Okay. You're watching vessels, so you don't have to do anything special. You just put in your house. Okay. Which is basically an oinus. However, shemer sacher is chayiv geneva aveda. Now, b'shalom geneva, I understand that he's going to be chayiv to pay for stealing. He can't make a shvua by case of a shemer sacher. The pasuk says im gonna be imo. It says beferish. If he stole it, you shalom abalim. He has to pay. Not that he stole it, but it was stolen while he was watching it. How do we know that if it was lost that the shemer sacher has to pay? Desanya. Im gonna be ainly el geneva. I only know if it's stolen. Aveda b'nayin, how do the shemer sacher has to pay if it's lost? Talmud lemer im gonna be mikol makayim. If it got stolen in any place, which basically means that if it's lost, it's basically someone else has taken it. It's gone. Maybe the reason why it repeats itself, and this is how people speak, and the Torah speaks in that way for us to be able to understand the Torah better, to understand its depths. It speaks in our language. So therefore, maybe there's no chiddush to learn out from there. So how do you know Aveda? So Amri b'Marava, in Eretz Yisrael, they'll say Kavachaymer. Ma Geneva. When it comes to stealing, Shekrayvel Oinis, when something gets stolen, it's pretty close to it. You're out of your. Why would you gonna get stolen? Mishalim, the shemer sacher still has to pay. So Aveda, Shekrayvel Pshia. right? And it was obvious. It's like someone stole it. It's not. It's something which you really is beyond your controls. Almost like someone stole it from you. Nonetheless, you have to pay. So aveda shekrev l'bshilu kol shekain. So an aveda, if you're chayav, a shemesh sacher is chayav to do genei, to pay for something that was stolen, he's assumed to be chayav if it got lost. So it's an interesting kavachaymer. The idach mil says b'kavachaymer tarach kasav kra. We see this many times in Gemara Kedusha and other places by Tashav Sacher, etc. So sometimes, even though you can learn it out from a kavachaymer, the pasuk still goes out of a way to mention it. Okay, the shoyim mishalem es hakayil. It says that the borrower has to pay everything, oinsim, everything. Now, bishlam mishvura meisa, I can understand if it was the animal broke its leg or died. The pasuk says it beferish v'chi yishal ish mi'im rehu. So again, talking about a borrower. The pasuk says beferish borrower. The nishbro meis. It says this case el shvuya b'shoyim anon. How do you know that it was taken in captivity? We don't see that in the pasuk. V'chi temanel mishvura meisa. Why do we compare the two? Malo shvura meisa shechein oins. Oinsa, the saluk adaita. These are things that could happen. Who? Timer b'shvui shechein oinsa deloit saluk adaita. Who? But no one would even entertain this possibility to even stipulate or even to think about it. So there's no. You would maybe think that a shvuya, if the animal is captured, that maybe that would be different if it's put in captivity. Ella, how do we? So then, how do we know shvuya? Nemra shvuya meisa b'shoyel, but nemra shvuya meisa b'shemer sachar. Malohon shvuya imoi avkan shvuya imo. So by a shemer sachar, we say that the din by a shemer sachar, he can make a shvuya by all these cases, including a shvuya. You can just make a shvuya, and that's it. So too, if we're coupling them together there by shemer sachar, we're also going to put them all together when it comes to the din of a shoyel. Eagle mifrach. Malo shemer sachar shechein liftor termer shechein l'chiyav. But the shomer sacher can make a shvuah and not have to pay. But we're now including it to a shoyel that will have to pay. El Rav Nosson, the stern Rav Nosson, remember, Rabbi shvuah. The fact that it says the word that's a reboy. Hi biboy l'chalek. I thought we needed to make this to l'chalek to say you're going to be the dinim are for each one separately. The second that you made me think ad mitabra umesa. They would actually have to have the animal break a leg and die. Kamash Malon, that's why is coming to tell you l'chalik. So Anichu Rav Yonasan, El Rav Yishaya Mayuk Meimar. So what exactly is this machlokas? So Rashi says, Hanicha. Okay, it explains it. Desanya. A lot of times this is brought down in Rashi, not in the Gemara itself. The Gemara says Beferish. Okay. Desanya. Ish ashir kalas aviv es imo. A person who curses his father and his mother. Ainli el aviv imo, aviv below imo below aviv manayin. How do we know if you curse the mother and not the father, father not the mother? Maybe you have to curse both. Talmud Leimer, aviv v'imoy, kilel. Aviv kilel imoy Aviv kilel imo kilel. Dear Yeshaya. So the fact that it says the vav aviv v'imoy, it's coming to tell you either one, if you curse the father or the mother. Normally we could actually say that they're separated. You don't need a reboy to tell you that they're separated, as we continue to start Ham and Aleph, unless it says the word yachtav, and here Rashi does help us out. When it comes to plowing a donkey and an ox together, it says yachtav. Over there, it does need to tell you that you have to have them both, because if you don't plow with both of them together, there's no din kalayim. So over there, you do yachtav connects the two. So if it doesn't have the word yachtav, they're already separated. You don't need the word to tell you. So you already know, but pashtus, that you'd be chayav for cursing your mother or father even without the word the vav. Shamina the ilu kasmi havamashma. If you didn't write, you would think shliachrish lo b'shamor v'lo b'chamor, not the ox or the donkey. Okay. So the field tamer back in the Gemara, studying him and Aleph. The field tamer Rabbi Yishaya l'chalik hachalot sarach. Over here, you don't need the word to distinguish between a broken leg, and then the animal dying, my time is svarhu. Malikataku, malikata palga. Was it was halfway dead or completely dead? In other words, if you're going to be responsible for an animal, if it broke its leg and it died, which you killed it completely, also if it broke its leg and it cannot function as an animal, you should be chayav there as well. So therefore the Lamaskan is actually coming to tell you to include shvuya. Okay, that's how we're going to end it. Okay, let's see. Possibly one more question. All right, let's look at question TA. Question TA20. Madua masna shomer chinam liyos patim mishvu inzem masna mashak masna b'tayra. Essentially, we had this. It's the exact same question as question 9. Either because of davar shabamamoin, or because originally he was not mishabed himself. So that is question TA 20. And maybe we have one more question. So let's see. Maybe we didn't see this. Let's see. We'll see that in tomorrow's Nafat Khan.